So we're back. We're back for episode 4 of Executive Conversations, where I talk to marketing leaders about how the heck they get buy-in, how they prove what they're doing is the right thing. Because as we know, things have changed. Since 2020, we are now selling to the CFO. We're selling to the board. We are selling to the CRO, the head of sales. We have to show how what we're doing as a B2B marketer is actually contributing to what the whole company cares about. And while that was our goal all along, it's become a lot harder to do so and to balance the long term and the short term and to find allies to support you. So this is a pain point that I found a lot of marketers have, and I want to talk to other marketers about how they've successfully been able to get things done when they have all these other stakeholders to deal with. It feels like we're not only marketing now to the customer, but we have a lot of different personas that we need to be able to sell to. So today I am speaking to Jakub Rudnik, who is the head of content and SEO at Softr, and I'm really excited to dive into this with you today, Jakub. How's it going?
Yeah, it's all good. This is a topic that excites me too. It's been something I've dealt with really well or less well sometimes. So I've got some lessons on both sides, and happy to be talking about this.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So let's start with when you had to start figuring out how to do this, because this is a skill on all its own. You know, as freelancers or consultants or maybe individual contributors, we're like, yeah, I'm a great marketer and that's all I have to do. But then at some point you have to build that skill of, actually, I have to do internal marketing and internal selling here. So when did you kind of make that transition?
Yeah, sure. So I was at G2 a few stops ago, so 2015 to 2019, and started as an individual contributor. Really, it was my first job in marketing overall. And so kind of for the first couple of years there, I was just wherever the winds took me, I was doing and executing. And once I started getting into strategy and then leading a team kind of for the first time, started to understand that, though I didn't know the whole picture. And this is my big, looking back, I would do a ton of different things, both with internal marketing and how to prove ROI, but doing organic driven content. We got really good at taking blogs and turning that into organic traffic. Our goal was organic traffic, and that was what our CMO was selling to the founders and the board and everything like that. But when things got tight, when money wasn't flowing as freely, all of a sudden it was an ROI conversation. And so our goals were traffic, but we weren't proving. So we were proving traffic. Went from 50,000 blog visitors to 1.5 million in a year. It was awesome. But if those aren't turning into really recognizable dollars, much tougher. And so our strategy at G2 is let's get a big blog. And we think that if we link those over to our categories and to our product pages, those will lift the rankings, and we'll see these side effect lifts in those traffic. And so there's a couple stages removed from proving really easily proving ROI. So it's much harder to sell. So when people are looking for teams to cut when they're doing layoffs and things, a big content marketing team of 22 writers is really easy to chop. So for me, that was a big lesson of, we didn't figure this out. I didn't know. And so that was the worst feeling to see. I had left at that point, but I'd seen teammates being let go and things. And it was because we didn't do a good job there. So that was I need to do this. I can't let this happen again in my career.
It's interesting because you were an individual contributor and you said the CMO was selling traffic. So you were like, okay, well, if the CMO says that that's what we're supposed to do, then that must be what we're supposed to do, right? And I also find this, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, so I was at IC and then moved into the small team, and then we built the team. So I was managing a bunch of people, but it was that shift very quickly. And so, but it was still him selling that to the board. We're going to grow this team. We're going to get all this traffic, and they're going to be the ones to do it. And you did feel in that moment, we need traffic, but also we need to get the right kind of traffic, but sometimes that's not as big. So we were always fighting those two things internally. We knew it didn't feel perfect in the moment. And then it obviously felt really bad at the end when the push came to shove. So I don't know, but you're gold on your goals, and you have to go towards those goals, right? So we felt at odds with those things, even in the moment.
So then did you go to Scribe after G2?
A couple stops later. So that was, I left late 2019, and then a couple jobs in that weren't perfect fits. Well, one was whatever. And I ended up at Scribe 2021, I want to say 2022 maybe. And so Scribe, small Series A PLG tool, leading content and SEO there. And so they had gotten a big Series A. They wanted to go very fast. They wanted to, and it was a tool that felt like had a ton of organic potential. So they saw like what we had done at G2 and found me. And this was one of those places where I did know I needed to change that like ROI conversation, get ahead of it before you're kind of like retroactively trying to prove what you had done. But it was also a different business model. So for me, it was learning on the go. I'd done SEO at, review sites. And so the money is coming from these vendors signing up for profiles or, doing lead gen or something like that. And Softr instead is a free tool that has a paid model. So I have to learn all sorts of new metrics and new user journeys and all these things. And so it wasn't like, I don't know, I've done tougher things in my life, but it was a change in mindset on how to think of like how SEO and content is driving those things.
Yeah. So actually that confused me because isn't G2, isn't one of the point that a vendor would sign up for it, isn't it because of the SEO in a way?
Correct. So my first 2 years at G2 is on the research side, so working on the content and pages for a category or a product. So you're dead on. That's where the money's made. The big shift in our content strategy in my years 3 and 4 there, we're trying to do kind of like we had a CMO who came from HubSpot. Let's go get top of funnel content and push people down. So it's all brand new content.
Oh,
So we would have our CRM category, and not only would we have a best CRM list and build links to that and all that, that's a separate team. My new team was set to build, what is a CRM and how does it work, but also what's sales strategy, these things that kind of fall in between the software categories. So software helps you to solve problems. However, again, those articles convert people over to a CRM user, 0.1% of the time. So really where it fell apart was the theory that like those articles would help raise the CRM category and its rankings. But you can't prove
okay.
that technically, right? Is it the link? Is it this page speed? Is it something our competitors did? Why are rankings changing? So because it was 2 steps removed, that's where it became much tougher. Where at Scribe, I could say, after we built the program and all the content was working, I could say, people who come to the content directly from organic sign up from a blog page at this rate, and this is how many people per month, and it's growing. And then what's the lifetime value of those customers or like those users? And that became a much easier math problem. Like we weren't trying to stretch all these numbers and squint and say, it looks like we're seeing things here. We really could say these visitors turn into these free users that turn into these paid users. And so it became a much more compelling story.
So did you already have that kind of attribution journey built in when you got to Scribe?
Subscribe that we used Mixpanel, which made things really easy. And so when I came in, honestly, I'd have to look, but we had 10 blogs on the site, maybe 50 total pages. So some of that was built, but it was really early. Like they went to raise seed, and then Series A came in at the same time. So they went from like a very small early stage like company to Series A in just a quick jump, and we hired the marketing team. So some of it was built, but we were really building like the plane while we were trying to fly. Like it was very fast there. And so I had, again, I was my first time using Mixpanel. It was my first time trying to understand these like PLG type of metrics. So some of it was built. We also had a really great growth team where they had some things in place, but we were trying to build that model. And I remember even a year into this journey, what is our LTV? We're like, well, we kind of use this number. We kind of use this number because we didn't even know how long a customer's true lifetime value was. Like we'd only been, most customers had only been with the the product for 6 months. It's really hard to tell what that looked like. So even then, because we were just so new and everything was growing so quickly, it was still like some of the numbers were like, here's the range of what that looks like for us. So it was there. We definitely had support, but we were building that on the go.
So when you were at Scribe, who did you report to?
There's a head of marketing there. So I was under her umbrella. I think we had a team of 5 or 6 marketers. Maybe the team was 40 or 50 overall for my year there.
And you were still an individual contributor there?
I see mostly. I had one direct report, so a content marketing manager, really
Okay.
helping to support execute a lot of that strategy, and then we use a ton of freelancers, for writing and link building and things like that.
Okay. So you said that when you came in from G2, you had those lessons already. We said, okay, we need to focus on ROI. So tell me about the conversations that you had, because you still have your, I'm sure you still have your long-term plays, your short-term plays. And so how did those lessons apply to what you started doing at Scribe?
Yeah, so Scribe, I came in, I don't know, I think again it's fall 2021 or something like that. And so we were trying to launch this content strategy. Honestly, I was learning what would work. I was taking a lot of what had worked at G2, doing these like typical HubSpot like content clusters. We'll do the what is article and how it works and do all these things. A lot of those didn't pay off in the end. Like the ROI was much lower because it took like the conversion rates. I learned a ton in this year and a half there. But then, so the first 6 months, they've hired me. They wanted someone with content SEO experience, the specific experience I had. And even then, I still felt like I had to prove. I think some of this is internalized, but also there's some, we have not actually seen the ROI, right? And we know content's going to take some time. We do have patience, but at the same time, we just raised a big fundraising round. We need to see results sooner than later. And so as a marketing team, we were balancing these two things. We're trying to find shorter plays. This kind of led to our discovery of using influencers and short form video as an overall marketing team. And that became like our short-term play to balance with content. Like they became a great two-pronged approach. But at the same time, for me, there's still okay, month one, we've spent this much money on content. Is it published? Okay, we know it's going to take time. Publish faster, publish faster. Then when you start to see those keywords rank, like, are they the right keywords? All right, where's the traffic? So you start to get some pressure. I remember distinctly like one call with the head of marketing, the CEO, and it was like, we are not moving fast enough here. How can we move quicker? And it kind of forced me to radically think about like, what is our operations process look like? What does it look like to get briefs and writers, and how much content can go, and what do we need to edit before we publish, and all these things. But 6-7 months in, we did have traffic. We had free users coming in, and suddenly we had people paying for the product. So we could see that certain types of articles, we had to like drag the spreadsheet a little bit to like a place where it hadn't been, but we could see this is the type of ROI we're seeing from this content. And so it looked like if we were doing the right type of content, I think the number was like 7 months was our break even point for content, like that we'd really executed and found the right ICP. So I was in San Francisco for a kind of an on-site with the team, went on a walk with the CEO, just how are things going? What are you seeing? What would you do, et cetera. We're talking about this, and she's like, why don't we just do more then? If we're really breaking even in 7 months, let's go do this. So we quadrupled our content budget overnight. And it was really that comfort. Like we had to prove it. It took 7 months. It was a bumpy road. Sometimes it felt like, are we going to prove it? Do I know my metrics well enough? Like, do I really, I hadn't done the PLG content again. But once we had proven it, it became really easy to say, what can we do? Let's stretch this budget. Let's increase. So it became like, instead of a worry and just all this anxiety inducing thing, will we do it? Once you've done it, then it becomes much easier to go to leadership and ask for more.
Okay, so in the PLG, you said you were using Mixpanel.
Correct.
You could easily see, and you were doing first touch or last touch?
First touch, and then so somebody first touch, they would come to, for instance, our blog first touch, and then they would turn into a user, and I think we used 30 days with that, but sometimes we even cut it shorter. So someone in the first 7 days after seeing a blog is their first touch signing up for Scribe.
Right. And so at that time, what was your strategy? Quite bottom of the funnel, or what was it like to be able to have that 7-month timeline?
Yeah, again, the first couple months were probably more top of funnel than they should have been. It was me trying to, we're so new. We only had a few thousand users. We didn't really know what the ICP was. We thought it would be in these buckets. We didn't really know what people were calling our tool. We didn't know what they were using instead. We just knew we had a few thousand people. And so we were taking some shots, but also, again, I was using kind of this G2/HubSpot top of funnel play. So a lot of the content I did in the first couple months, we've converted users and people eventually did pay, but it was not our best ROI stuff. In months 3, 4, 5, when we got a little bit more data, we saw what people are using. We got a really good product marketer who ran great surveys that answered a lot of those questions, talked to a lot of users. So suddenly we were going way more middle and bottom of the funnel. So a lot more software lists, alternatives to other things. If we learned that someone was converting from this type of tool over, they were using this before us, that became kind of the gold for me. So our conversion rates on blog posts were going from 0.5%, 1%, maybe 2 to 4, 5, 10,
Oh, wow.
12%, because we were going down the funnel. Also, again, it's a free product, so you're seeing really high
Right.
conversion rates compared to some other stuff. So I think that those are inflated compared to some other products or categories, but still, again, moving down the funnel and also just knowing our kind of our customer better.
So, how did things change? Because you had this PLG, it's pretty straightforward. People convert. You said it's also free. When you moved to ActiveCampaign, which is, I mean, I guess part of it is PLG, but it's also sales led. Were you responsible for any of the sales led
Yeah,
growth?
not as much. We certainly were trying to bridge those two gaps. So ActiveCampaign is really interesting. They tried to move really, I think they were product led before people were calling it product led, or maybe it was like customer led, like really pro customer success oriented. And then in the pandemic, raised a big round right before the pandemic, invested really heavily in sales led. We're trying to go up market enterprise. It just didn't work. The average customer is much smaller than justifies a big sales team. So before I came in, there were big cuts to those outbound teams, especially. And so the year that I was there, a lot of reformatting on what the sales org looked like, how it worked together with marketing. So honestly, like that was starting to be bridged, and we were starting to work together. What does sales need? How does demand, sales, content fit together? We were seeing good progress, but really that was just my final quarter there, and it was more on the inbound. We had tons of blogs, use case pages, templates, etc. And that traffic had been going down for 2 years. Like, how do we turn that around before we go do anything outbound?
Yeah. Okay. So when you got to ActiveCampaign, you had a team there. You were managing a team?
Yeah, a couple teams. Yeah.
Couple teams. So who were you reporting to at that time?
Yeah, at ActiveCampaign, it was me reporting to the CMO, and we had a couple teams. So we had our blog writing team, we had a localization team, turning both product and site over
Yeah.
to different languages, and we had a video team as well.
So how did the dynamics change there when you were trying to get buy-in for what it was that you wanted to do?
Yeah, really interesting there with the size of the team and the things that I had to do. And I came in and was recruited over. The CMO and I met and had really good conversations just about SEO and content, and thought it would be a good fit. And they also had a new president who came in kind of to be next to the CEO for the first time and lead go to market and kind of reformat the overall organization. So I came in really excited. They're like, we'll invest in content and things, and still had a tougher time. And I think I came in naive about how much you still have to prove some things. Like I remember one of my lessons in the first quarter I was there at Scribe, we'd done influencers, right? We'd shown the playbook. We could see if we spent this much on influencers, traffic, signups, paid signups went up. Because the site and the product was so small, especially early on, you could see if a video went viral, you'd see the spike that day. Like it was super noticeable. Active campaigns, traffic, its users, all this were so much more, like so much bigger, 180,000 customers, like hundreds of thousands of people on the website every month. We ran some influencer campaigns, stood up really quickly, got, 25 influencers in a month. Felt really good about this, like what we stood up. You couldn't see the change in traffic because there's so much already. There's such a brand already. So I kind of ran naively, like, we'll do this, we'll show the impressions, and it'll show in our, analytics and things. It didn't to the same extent. We didn't feel confident. And so it was a test that never went anywhere. Like there wasn't enough proof at the CMO and president level because they hadn't done influencers before. Would it work for them? We couldn't see it in the numbers. And so until we proved it, it kind of just sat there in purgatory where we wanted to do more, but we had to prove it, but we couldn't prove it. And so it was one of those that even coming in, people like your ideas in the interview, they believe in it. There's still some, if we can't report this to the board or to the C level, then it's really hard still. So I think we were feeling the kind of the wins that everybody else is feeling right now. If there's not a number attached, it's really hard to keep going forward with the program. So that was a lesson where that was harder. On the same time, the content side, like that was much easier. We could show the self-serve signups, the first touch stuff. So that was much easier for me. And they had seen success with SEO before, and we're still seeing it, even if it was dropping. So for me, that wasn't the harder sell because the
Right.
company had that history with that channel.
So when you tried to prove or sell to them the idea of the influencer campaigns, did you get budget to be able to prove it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ran something like $25,000 in the first month.
Okay.
Maybe that's where that 25 number comes in. So for me, it was like, let's go get these people as quickly as possible. We were publishing, or they were publishing on any day, whenever it happened. I think that was where we missed. If we could have like really batched them together into a couple days or one day, you could maybe see that spike in, branded traffic. But we didn't do that because again, I think I was naive on how much we would have to prove or how truly it was a test. So, but yeah, we had some budget, and then how do we get in the next 25,000 or the next 100,000?
Yeah.
Much harder without having that very clear proof.
If you were to do it again, would you have still pitched that campaign but done it differently, or just scrapped it altogether?
Yeah, I think so. I think we would have time boxed it again. Like, can we get all these influencers on a specific day or in a specific region? Or like at that time, I think we were launching some AI capabilities. Could we have them all talk about AI? And so, as a new feature or product line, people searching for ActiveCampaign AI, do we see that go up over that week? Right. I think by putting some constraints on this test for Scribe, it was like we have no traffic, so anything will show up in the analytics. But AC, I think we needed to just be more focused there. And but yeah, it was really about like running a true experiment instead of like just throwing some stuff at the wall to show. And I think that's where AC felt like they were, is like, let's try anything, but still trying anything and then doing it 100 times are different things.
Yes. So taking those lessons in, I guess, I mean, Softr is much smaller than ActiveCampaign now, and you just started it's been like a month?
Yeah, about 7. I think this is week 7. But yeah,
Week
we're 50
7.
people, very much more like Scribe in both size. And then, it's PLG. We have a free tool and also obviously paid versions. So it's not so like Scribe, almost anybody could use it, even for B2C purposes. Software's definitely got more of a B2B, and it's more expensive. So there's a little bit different play there, but ultimately it feels very similar.
And I forgot, are you guys you're funded?
Yep, we had a Series A, I think, in 2020 through 2022 or 2023.
Okay.
So now we're, I think, finally growing this marketing team. We've had some marketing, but this is where we've grown this year is on the marketing side.
Okay. And in this economy, especially as a fund, well, I guess bootstrapped and funded, everybody needs to be thinking this way, but it's kind of like you do have to prove ideas that you have. Do you find it more difficult or similar when you're now at Softr versus ActiveCampaign, for example?
Yeah, early stages, we'll see. Talk to me in 6 months, right? But I think it's going to be easier. I think there's a couple things going for me. So Scribe had basically no content and hadn't seen organic drive anything before. Softr has. They've had somebody doing SEO and content in various capacities. And so we've seen a lot of traffic signups and even paid signups from our templates, from our use case pages, even from various blogs. And so they brought me in to accelerate that, not just start it from scratch. So we can already show this is a channel, works for us. We just want to do more. So I'm having a much easier time there, not just getting that initial buy-in. And then I think there's also this culture of experimentation. Not that ActiveCampaign had none of that, but Softr is very much like there are experiment boards. Everything has like a true experimentation format. And so if I want to do something, I'm not trying to start that from scratch, and I have support, and people are looking at my experiments critically and saying, we could do this even better. And so I think at an ActiveCampaign, there wasn't that culture to the same extent. And it was like, let's just try something. Let's try it, but why? How are we measuring it? We have the systems and data in place. And again, there's less noise around it too. So if we wanted to try something like influencers, there is traffic, but we could time box it easier and I think see those spikes. So I think there's a lot of things going for it where I have more ability to test than I do at not a legacy company, but closer to an enterprise company like ActiveCampaign.
for the experiments, is there an expectation that you pitch a certain number of experiments, or is it just you can if you want to?
I think you can certainly, but I think in this role and where the stage we're at, like we've just done our Q1 kind of OKR exercises and have like built, like reformatted our sprints. So now that a couple of us are like onboarded and moving, like we have a better sense, and we want to build out a portion of our time each sprint or each quarter for experimentation, because there's definitely some execution, but like what gets us to where we need to get to at the end of Q2 or at the end of 2024 isn't what we were going to need to do in 1 year, 5 years, right? So we do want to always be experimenting and keep that as part of the culture. So it's certainly like keeping those brainstorming things. That's why we get together on site and all of that stuff.
Do you have any best practices for how you can pitch an experiment?
For sure. I think like for me, what's worked at Scribe and even at ActiveCampaign, though I didn't execute everything properly, is like certainly helps to have data points, right? So these companies did this company, I saw this TikTok, this YouTube video, this case study, someone tried this. Here's where I think it fits similarly, right? No, like Scribe did influencers, ActiveCampaign, those are different companies with different business models, but we believe it can work here and why. Certainly like coming with potential or like estimated ROIs or what you think could work. We want this much budget, so it's only this much risk. We're only going to use this much time. I think that time is a big one too, is like we'll limit it to this week, month, whatever, so it won't overtake all of our other jobs or those things that are happening. I think that those are big things. And then again, how do you measure it? I think that's one, is like we're going to set up this reporting and these are the metrics we're going to look at. Obviously, like your boss, your CEO, whoever will want to poke into those, but that's a good thing. If you're coming with a good draft there, they can push at your idea, and that's really helpful. But if you just come with, we want to do influencers, what does that mean? I have no concept. I don't believe in TikTok, but if you show all of this and you come with some data points and then show the framework of the experiment, I think that's a really good start there.
Yeah. Cool. Love it. All right. Well, this feels like a good time to wrap it up. Jakub, it has been really nice chatting with you about this. It's every time I have these conversations, it's a completely new perspective. And I love that you have this journey with like completely different kinds of companies where you've learned all of these things. And yeah, appreciate you sharing your lessons with me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the great conversation. Always love this. Again, it's something that's hurt me in my career, and now I think it's become a strength because, and so I hope that marketers can figure that out, and happy to help how I can.
Yeah, totally. So if people want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great place. I talk content SEO pretty often, and also happy to always connect, answer questions. Love just building my community there. So find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Will do. Thank you. And for those who are listening, please do like, subscribe, share. Anything would be super helpful for me. And I will see you on the next one.